Welcome back to another episode 85 of the Spittin Hoops podcast. We're back after the NBA Finals. Obviously, we did a pod pre-NBA Finals. We've also missed the NBA draft. We've missed some moves. The Celtics have made some big moves, so we got the resident co-host, Boston Celtics GOAT here. Anthony, how are you feeling?
Man, pretty tough to say goodbye to a couple core tenants of the championship team from last year. Really, really love everything that Drew Holiday and Kristaps meant for us, especially Drew Holiday. Um, Anytime you win a chip, I feel like it's a bit harder to say like what could have happened. Um, but just kind of seeing how Drew, I think, regressed a little bit this past year, in Kristaps's whatever his injury was situation over the year. It was just amazing to have them. Um, but got to get under the second apron. Can't have those issues hampering us. I know it affects our draft ability. If we were to stay over the second apron for the second year in 4 years, correct? And I also know that we can't make a lot of moves, so great to get under it. I guess that was with the Kristaps with the first off with the Drew Holiday trade. That was fantastic. I love that. Most of the Celtics fans that I know love that. The Simons element and 2 seconds back
Yeah.
um, is fantastic. The Kristaps one I'm not as gung ho on, but I don't. That must have been the best offer we got. Um, Welcome to Boston, George Niang.
And also like I think Simons is great because he's young and whatnot, but Drew also had what 2 years of like 35 or 40. Like these are big salary numbers. And I think Simons, even though he is expiring, whatever he's gonna re-sign for is not gonna be that Drew Holiday number. And then yeah, I think like yeah, Porzingis, I can't say I'm shocked that his trade value is not that high because just the number, this year number is so high, and then he's expiring. So you don't know what you're re-signing him for. You don't know if you're re-signing him, and you still have to kind of take an L on the front end of that contract. So I think it was kind of unless someone was gonna re-sign him instantly on a lower contract, I think he was kind of cooked. But yeah, I guess Atlanta had that trade exception. They're like, yeah, okay, we'll take Porzingis. And now we'll talk about them when we're close to the season, but they become a really fun team. They also swindled the Pelicans on draft night, which I alluded to earlier. We'll get to all that later today in the pod. But yeah, we're gonna kind of just jump around and talk about each team that's made moves. We're kind of gonna assess whether we need to talk about them as we go, and if we don't, and yeah, like we said, we're leading this out with the Celtics. I just kind of want to start with this Drew Holiday trade because I'm kind of curious how you feel about this. For the Celtics, like I think you do this because he gets younger, you can re-sign it, whatever. Simons as a player leaves somewhat to be desired in terms of his defense. I think he's probably one of the worst defenders in the NBA, to be quite honest. It's both a size thing and just Portland's been weird. So that's one thing you could talk yourself into. The scoring is also going to be there. But I want to flip it to the Portland end. You know, they have had a lot of 20s. They have a lot of scores, whether that be Scoot, Shaden, Jeremy Grant, etc., who want to score around 20 points per game, just like Simons does. That's kind of a gap that Simons can fill up on the Celtics, but Portland kind of replaces that output with Drew Holiday.
Mhm.
The issue is Drew Holiday is like 35 and he's making a lot of money.
Yeah.
I I think I could go both ways. I think I could talk myself into a 36 and 46 team, adding a Drew Holiday and getting better and pushing for a playing spot, especially in a West that's going to have kind of the Grizzlies and Kings and Suns powering down a little bit. Um, but it felt like a weird move. I'm curious. I wonder if I was the Blazers, I almost would have just traded Simons for draft capital. And if I'm as good as I was this year around the trade deadline, now I can make a move. They seem to be pressed to make this move, which I was curious about.
I mean, I feel like with if you're Portland, you're in a weird flux position right now because you kind of have like the Dame legacy still hanging over you a little bit. I don't necessarily hate this move for Portland at all. In terms of the veteran presence with Drew, two-time NBA champ, gotta kind of help teach Scoot and Shea.
And their defense with Tumani and Drew is going to be
Oh my lord,
really like that's going to be great.
it's gonna be
But
so
just
good.
offensively, I'm like, you still got Aiton, Jeremy Grant, like
Right.
Shaden Sharp. There's a lot of guys who want to score 20 points.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the thing with Drew. he doesn't need to score as much as ever. He doesn't need to score, you know. So maybe that's good, but just it feels the age profile just doesn't really feel like it lines up, and I don't know if Drew himself is going to elevate them high enough to the play, especially with the Spurs getting better, especially with the Pelicans allegedly trying to make a playoffs. So I
I
don't
mean,
know.
we'll talk about the Pelicans.
I was being facetious there. Um,
um, it's cool. I think they'll probably be around a 500 team, to be honest. Um, they're not that bad.
Maybe right under just because the West, but yeah,
Yeah.
maybe right under. But yeah, I guess if you told me they had a 4 to 5 game jump, I could totally see it. But the thing is, could you have told me that if they had just ran this team back and they're young? Because they had a really good end of the season. Like, they're kind of a younger team. Could you have told me they ran this team back and had a 4 or 5 game jump? Like maybe they. I mean, thing is that then that happens, and then now you have to confront the Anthony Simons question, and you know, what if he walks in free agency, etc. So I don't know.
No, you
I
don't
think it
do
was
it.
almost an L. I think it was almost like a we don't want to pay Anthony Simons long term. We'll trade him for 2 years of Drew Holiday is probably an upgrade over these 2 years. That's
Yeah.
kind of what it felt like. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Instead of letting him
Okay.
walk.
Yeah. Um, but that's the thing. Like the Celtics will have to extend him, right? So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. And I think the Celtics will feel comfortable doing so, probably.
If they want to. And if he doesn't work out, if he's an inefficient 17,
They just got off the Drew Holiday contract. He was getting paid next year. We'll get paid like 35 million as like a 37-year-old, you know? So okay. That's kind of interesting. This was a really fun trade. I like these 1-for-ones. I mean, this is the thing about this cap space environment is that like we are seeing more 1-for-ones because like people get slotted in um as like salary matchers. Like you can only match salary to a certain extent as people kind of move into the aprons and whatnot. And fun stuff. Fun stuff. Is that all Celtics you got?
yeah, we'll talk more about them as they get closer to the season. It'll be interesting to see what the expectations are in a very wide open East, how they do. It's sort of like Cleveland underwhelmed. Obviously, Halliburton now. We didn't even talk about the Halliburton injury, but maybe if we get to the Pacers, we can.
Yeah, probably
Uh,
should. Yeah, the Pacers lost the NBA championship. We just didn't even talk about that yet, even though we haven't done a pod since.
let's get to them before we talk to them. I'm just kind of going down like the teams via
Wait,
division.
we could talk about the Pacers stuff later because you do have a little bit of a spiel about the timing of transactions, and we can kind of tie that into our finals
Oh yeah,
talk at the
perfect.
end. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like
Um, can I talk Wizards? It's kind of the
yeah,
same stuff.
yeah.
Um, okay, we did the Homer Celtics section where we glazed the Celtics trades. Let me glaze the Wizards for a little bit. So one of the more fun trades that I thought that happened was this Jordan Poole trade with the Pelicans and the Wizards. So the Pelicans are giving up CJ McCollum, who's on an expiring deal, for Jordan Poole, who has 2 years left on his contract, kind of towards the same salary amount. I believe McCollum might be getting paid a little bit less than Poole or something, but whatever. Alongside this, Sadiq Bey goes to the Pelicans. He's got 2 years left on his contract as well, while Olynyk goes to the Wizards, who is also an expiring contract. They also exchange kind of second round picks in that end. That doesn't really matter. Basically, the Wizards just took Poole and Bey, replaced them with McCollum and Olynyk, and those salary slots go from being ending 2 years out to 1 year out, meaning they'll have almost 100 million in salary next year. You know, I think that is all well and good. But more importantly, during the draft, they drafted Trey Johnson, who I actually thought was one of the best prospects. I think he was really good. I thought I didn't really think it was going to fall to them. I just kind of assumed the Jazz or the Hornets were going to pick him, so that was kind of nice. And I think he fixed their system really well. But even with that, just if you play the numbers game and you think about darts, you're throwing darts as a rebuilding team. You're hoping to get an all-star here by the end of next year, the Wizards also hold a pick swap between the Suns and themselves. So the worst of those two teams in the draft next year, the Wizards will get that pick. Let's say it's a top 5 pick. So you got a top 5 pick next year. You have Bilal Coulibaly, Alexander Sarr, you have Trey Johnson, you have Will Riley, Keyshawn George, Bub Carrington, AJ Johnson. So that's 8 guys right there. They have 3 other young guys who are Champagny, Vucevic, and Colby Jones. I think they're a little bit more iffy on if they're NBA players or not. But I think you have 8 guys who project to be NBA players within 3, 4 years out. Then you have 3 other guys who may or may not. And then you'll have the rest of the old guys who walk. So you'll have four slots to fill out with 100 million. I think that you're giving yourself a lot of shots on the dartboard with almost 11 guys who are under 25, while also walking into free agency with 100 million cap space next year. I think that puts you in a good spot as a rebuilding team. This team that was directionless 2 years ago with Kyle Kuzma, Porzingis, and Brad Beal. I'm pretty happy about that. I'm really happy about them actually having direction, especially as a former season ticket holder. It was I could only watch so much Brad Beal, man. Like Casey, I've talked about this before, I think on the podcast. KCP was the best player to watch on that team because I felt like he was trying every night, he played every night, and he played a role and he played the role well. Like it was the one guy who was like, you're playing your role really well. And I think this Wizards team, as much as they are bad, like I think you're going to see progression, you're going to see actual offense being made, and you're going to see actual roles being fulfilled. It's not a directionless team anymore, which I really appreciate because this is one of the worst teams historically in the NBA. But barn. Yeah.
And how, bro? Yeah. It's great to see some stability for the franchise of DC. Um, yeah, I love,
Obviously, we're a little bit more invested maybe than most, but
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's great. I think people are so accustomed to you guys having a tough go at it, just the consistent like first round playoff exits, the John Wall, Brad Beal era of last decade, just kind of like holding on to those remnants. I mean, that Bradley Beal trade was just incredible to get out of that contract, to get the picks
or
that you
pick swaps.
the pick swaps is nuts,
Yeah,
especially
because they didn't. Yeah, they're not technically getting any unprotected picks, but it's just all four pick swaps. It just gives you a shot. Like if the Suns are ever bad in the next 8 years, boom,
yeah.
Wizards pick.
And
Mm.
they'll probably be a lottery team for the next however many years.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, the Wizards probably will too. But don't get me
It's so
wrong.
it doubles your odds of
Yeah,
being top five pick.
exactly though. Then like that's kind of they have. I think they have a lot of the surrounding talent. You probably will get a top five pick next year, and that's probably your guy. And then you have a lot of the surrounding young guys who won't have. They're all because that's the thing. All these guys are on rookie deals. That's why you have all this cap space. Like these are all rookie deals, and from there you pick who you want to extend and who you don't want to extend, or you can also consolidate assets. That's the thing. You can also trade these guys. So like
So as you
I don't
read into
know.
the tea leaves here, obviously part of this question is who would they draft next year? But part of it be with that 100 million in cap space, who do you want to try to go get? Do you like this like kind of Drew Holiday mold for the Blazers where you got an older veteran that can um, coach the young guys, somebody that can maybe push them towards a playing seed and give them experience in hotly contested games? What's kind of the model here?
I think the model is like the Rockets. So like the Rockets a few years ago, they got Şengün, and that ended up kind of being their guy. They hit free agency, got Van Fleet on this. We called it an overpay at the time, and they knew it was an
Yeah.
overpay, but that's how you get a guy like Van Fleet through the door, paying him like 45 mil. Same with Dylan Brooks, who had just gotten ousted by the Grizzlies. You come in, you pay him 20 mil. And the thing is, with the Wizards, they're gonna have 100 mil. So you can go a lot of routes because let's say Kuminga was on the free agency market, and the Wizards were like, we really like Kuminga. You could pay him 30 mil a year and still pick up 70 mils worth of players, for example, and Kuminga is a bad example because he won't be on the market next year. But let's say you really like Anthony Simons. You go get a young guy, one of them for 30 mil, which would be a lot. It would be an overpay probably for Anthony Simons. But then I'm going to go get Zach LaVine. And maybe I'm overpaying. Maybe he's the guy who gets the Van Fleet contract, the 45 mil. And I still have 20 mil left over, and let me go get Andrew Wiggins. So I got Wiggins, Levine, Simons, and these are kind of old. Two of them are older guys, a little bit. They're two guys past their 30s. But then Simons can be someone who kind of fits your timeline a little bit more. So the thing is, you don't have to pick. You almost have so much money, you don't have to pick and choose. What if you want to go get Draymond Green? You want to go say, I think Draymond could pair up with Alex Sarr really well. And let's say the Warriors have a horrible, horrible season. They don't. Draymond Green is probably going to opt out of his contract, whatever. Like I don't see that happening. But like, yeah. Truly, I think my best example here is Isaiah Hartenstein. And next year, he will have a player option for 30 million. If you're the Wizards, I would here's 35 million for 3 years straight. Isaiah Hartenstein, 3 years, 105 million. For you to opt out of OKC, come play with us. You're our starting center. Alex Sarr is going to play power forward next year. Like that's kind of the guy that I would be willing to overpay for. And I think that's like a really good example of someone actually. Like I think Isaiah Hardenstein is exactly the type of profile player I would be targeting if I'm the Wizards come next year because they're also a team for all these picks. They have no rebounders and no bigs, and that's the thing. Yeah, they're gonna feel like we're gonna need to make up for that in free agency. So I'm gonna go pay Isaiah Hardenstein 35 mil a year, and I still have 65 mil left over. So now I can still go get my Anthony Simons if I want to. I can still go get my Jakob Poeltl as my backup center if I want to. I don't know, but yeah, so that's the thing. Like you can go different routes, and I think that's really fascinating with this team. Um, so yeah, and then also like you can go pay overpay on a restricted free agent potentially. Like, um, I'm pretty sure like Wemby's gonna be a restricted free agent, but it's not him. But like I think that class will be restricted free agents, like the Scoot Hendersons of the world.
So maybe do
So
that.
yeah.
Um, there's what was I going to say? Isn't there also in this new CBA, if you're already with a team, is there some you can like sign for lower? Or are you allowed to include them
Well,
a
you
little bit
can if
like
if
that?
you're already with a team, you can sign for you basically you can give them an extra year on the contract and sign them for more. So
Oh,
that's like kind of the incumbency advantage. But so if you hit on one of the that's the thing, if the Wizards hit on any of these dart throws, it becomes really easy to resign these guys. We've actually never seen a team not be able to extend a player after the rookie deal if they offer a max. Any player who's ever been offered a max after the rookie deal has always taken it. So like let's say Sarr ends up being a hit even though he's on the Wizards, they're probably going to be able to re-sign him. Like, so that's also you don't have to worry about that too. Um, you don't get a ton of incumbency advantage if we're not talking about the top end players, but they'll always in the future they're going to be able to re-sign all these guys by going over the cap because they also have bird rights because they all drafted this they were drafted as Wizards too. So I don't know. I think they're in a really good spot. That's the
it-
thing. You're gonna have a window. Next offseason is your window to spend because Koulibaly's extension will kick in the year after. You're gonna have then Sar the year after and Carrington the year after that. So like that's the thing. You're gonna have this one window to spend this 100 million. You're gonna have to spend it wisely, but it's just like the Rockets. So the Rockets have one window to spend that 65 million that they walked into free agency with to surround their Jalen Green and Şengün. And then they were able to bring in Thompson along the way, right? Like that helps.
yeah,
But
yeah.
you know,
Bad.
but if one of the Suns picks ends up being top five, maybe you bring in, someone by then. So
You think this
that's
is
my
why
big
they
spiel.
traded
I
for?
think it's fun.
I think it's cool. Maybe this is why they traded for CJ McCollum so he could help them out with the new CBA. Like just kind of explain it to them and say
Well,
like, oh,
there is something hilarious about McCollum kind of being a CBA like
like
not he's not really a CBA casualty, but I guess he's more of an age casualty, but um the in a weird way, like someone like McCollum can't an incumbent team doesn't really have an advantage trying to re-sign him anymore. So once it kind of comes to the end of their contract, you're more inclined to trade them. Like
right.
like McCollum is just gonna hit free agency and then maybe re-sign with the Pelicans or maybe not next offseason. But like Pelicans were just gonna not get anything. So it's like let me roll over that asset into Jordan Poole, who's got 2 years left. And then I can do the same thing with Jordan Poole a year and a half from now. So in a weird way, he's kind of
A casualty
a casualty.
of his
But
own.
it's not that much. I mean, under most CBAs that we've had in NBA history, this probably would have been the case too.
Hmm.
So yeah,
No, man, it's cool. It's cool. Shout out to the DMV. Finally.
yeah, my Wizards. I'm glazing. Okay. Can we cut to the chase? I know we're going down a list of teams. Can we hit the Pelicans really quick?
Yeah, it sounds like we were headed towards them.
Yeah, so obviously they traded for Jordan Poole. They obviously get Sadiq Bey, Olynyk, and McCollum out the door. In general, that trade in a vacuum, I don't hate it. I just, Poole, DeJounte Murray, Trey Murphy, kind of interesting situation there. Um, and then obviously they go out and pick Jeremiah Fears, who feels kind of a similar vibe as the Jordan Poole and DeJounte Murray's of the world. To be fair, DeJounte Murray is definitely a bigger guard than Jeremiah Fears type, but still, you're bringing another ball dominant guard in, who probably doesn't play a ton of defense, um, which I think is funny. Um, but the bewildered trade of the night was the Pelicans had the 23rd pick, the Hawks had the 13th pick. The Pelicans gave up a pick, which is the pick swap between their pick and the Bucks pick next year to the Hawks to move up. Um, for Derek Queen. Derek Queen, who I really like, I think was probably getting underrated a bit. He's one of these guys who's not going to measure out really well, but I think he has really good NBA feel or like basketball feel, and I kind of like betting on those guys in general, especially as a big man. Um, but this is the thing is the Pelicans by making this trade are acting like no matter what the pick next year, unless they're a playoff team, will be the 13th pick or 14th pick, sorry, or better. So you just for sure gave up a pick that's already better than the pick you traded up to. And are you going to be a playoff team, or is it more likely that you might like? Is it more likely that come the All-Star break next year, you're going to wish you'd be able to tank? Because that's the thing. Now you're not going to be able to tank. Now you're going to have to go hard. Um, and you're putting a lot of pressure on Zion Williamson. You're putting a lot of pressure on Jordan Poole, who just got traded there. You're putting a lot of pressure on DeJounte Murray coming off of ACL. Putting a lot of pressure on Derek Queen and Jeremiah Fears, two rookies, to come in and actually perform. Um, no flame, but given the track record of the Pelicans, like it kind of feels like they're going to be a lot closer to being one of the two or three worst teams in the West than they are to being a playoff team.
Hmm.
And what if? And this is another thing. What if Giannis gets traded tomorrow? What if Giannis tears his ACL tomorrow? Then you're going to wish you had that Bucks pick. And I'm not saying that could happen, but it's about these like darts. You just and the thing is that this dart is already assured to score you a certain amount of points because the Pelicans are probably not going to be a playoff team next year. So because you just waited and draft next year's Derek Queen at 13.
Mm. So, I mean, what's the logic for trading up for a guy that, by many people's accounts, might have fallen to the pick that they could have picked him at anyways?
I mean, I don't know if he would have fallen all the way to 23, and I assume they must have had some intel that he wouldn't have.
Mm.
But for example, could you just traded higher than that? Like,
Mm.
I don't know. If you go to the Suns and you offer that for the 10th pick, because I know the Suns want to make a high draft pick coming off the KD trade, but they're gonna look themselves in the mirror. They're gonna be like, we're still gonna make it. We're gonna be able to pick at 23, and we're gonna have the Pelicans and Bucks pick next year. I'm curious, and I hope that they made multiple calls, and I assume like or the Cedric Coward. This is actually yeah, this is good. Um, uh, let me get the details. Cedric Coward, great. So if I remember correctly, the uh Blazers went back with the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies went up to from 16 to 11, which is 5 slots to the Pelicans 10 slots, right? But they went up to 11 and they gave up a 2028 first round pick from Orlando, which they just got in the Bane trade, right?
Mm.
No flame. That pick is probably not going to be a lottery pick, and that's 3 years out, and they got to
Right.
11. It's like if they go to the Blazers and they offer that same pick, do the Blazers say yes? And then you're at 11. Maybe you're at 11 and you really like Cedric Coward, and maybe that's the guy you draft instead. Like I don't know.
Mm.
Um, but
So,
it was weird. I just inherently I don't understand. But that said, I do like Derek Queen. I think he's really good. I just question how good he'll be this year. And I think they're probably going to be a lottery team again this year. And you're going to miss out on a draft next year, which has three really high end players. And you have to give yourself a shot at one of those guys. Because if next year, if next year the Hawks got what a top three pick with your pick, you're gonna hate yourself because you're gonna say Derek Queen's great. I wish I had Cameron Boozer. I wish I had AJ Dybonsa. I wish I had Darren Peterson. I wish I had I wish I had uh I'm forgetting his name. I was gonna say Koa Pete, but I don't think he's in that draft. But anyways, whatever. Um yeah, it's
mm.
a really good draft next year. So
Yeah, right. So Derek Queen better be like a top five center in order to justify this move.
well, to be fair, like if he makes all NBA, if he makes all rookie first team though, you could start justifying.
Mm.
Like even that, I'll lower the barrier because maybe you don't get maybe next year. Like I think it's almost more like the Pelicans need to be good, and you're putting a lot of pressure on a rookie to maybe contribute to that. Like you know, because it's
Mm.
it's kind of the sake of whether we look back on the legacy of this trade will not be Derek Queen unless Derek Queen is a top five center at some point, which maybe happens, maybe doesn't. But it's probably in the interim, it's probably going to be who's on the back end of the trade going to the Hawks because the Pelicans will define that whether how good or how bad they are next year. So Because no, respectfully to Derek Queen, he's good and all, but a top five pick next year is probably going to have a better career than he does. Probably. And I really like Derek Queen. Again, I wish the Wizards had picked him. I thought he was going to be a good tandem with Sar, but it didn't like Trey Johnson is just way better. And yeah, but I don't know. I think you're putting a lot of pressure on this team. Again, a team that just traded for Jordan Poole, DeJounte coming off an injury, Zion exists in his injury, space-time continuum. Trey Murphy, who just came off a season where he's scoring 25 a game as the best player on the team, is now going to have to take a backseat role to some of these guys.
Yeah, this is a weird team.
It's a really weird team, and you have to be a playoff team.
Yeah. And they didn't necessarily get better at all. Like, are they taking they won 21 games last year? Are they going to take a 20 game leap
I
and win
mean,
the lottery? Like, that's the
are
question,
they
right?
better than the Suns? Which we can get to too. Are they better than the Suns?
Are they better than the Suns? I mean, all right,
So this
let's.
is the thing. I think they are better than the Suns. So the Suns right now, if you missed it, they traded for Mark Williams because they wanted to recreate the Nick Richards, Mark Williams thing that worked so well on the Hornets. But to add to that, they drafted Kaman Malwak from Duke, who
Right.
um, actually really good player. I actually independently thought he was really great, and I wish he could go to a team where he played 30 minutes a game at the center spot. But unfortunately, they have Nick Richards, Mark Williams and Oso Ighodaro, who they drafted last year, who got a lot of playing time. So you have four guys who are like built-in centers, and then four of whom have not really showed the capability to play off of other non-shooters.
Mm.
Um, you have Jalen Green, you have Grayson Allen, who's getting paid 15 million. Hopefully, he gets moved. Not sure if anyone's taking that contract. Um, you have Brad Beal, who the Suns have reportedly threatened to cut, and he's like, "Okay, cut me. I can just pick whichever team I go to next." Um, and
The
Jalen Green and Devin
Bucks.
Booker.
Yeah.
So this is a team of centers and a team of shooting guards and
Yeah.
Ryan Dunn. And then you just have Ryan Dunn, who's gonna have to play 40 minutes a game in the middle. Um, yeah, that's it's rough, man. And I still have no picks.
Man, it's dark times in Phoenix.
Trading and no flame trading for Mark Williams. I mean, one of those picks is like a worst of five swaps. So it's like one of those picks was like guaranteed to be a terrible pick anyway. So it's whatever. But I'm like, come on, guys. Like, what? Like you have centers.
Huh.
This isn't a Lakers situation. Like you don't have Jackson Hayes. Like you just picked Cameron Mullock. You just picked the top 10 center in the draft. Centers usually don't take that much time to develop, honestly.
Yeah, bro. Um, this is tough. Well, what?
What offense do you run with a team like this? Like two in, three out? Like you're in 2008. Like I feel like that was around the time we were doing this stuff. Yeah, like Bynum Gasol in the middle with like three shooters.
You might have to, and you don't have. Yeah, right. Literally to just spread the floor, and then you need amazing passing. Like
Passing?
you need it. They
Jalen
don't. They
Green?
have it, but you need it.
Bradley
Jalen
Beal?
Green, Dylan Brooks, Bradley Beal.
I forgot they had Dylan Brooks, by the way. Another shooting guard. Another shooting guard
Other
over
shooting
this.
guard who's listed as their power forward on ESPN's,
Or that is funny.
which is
How
crazy.
many on their depth chart? I mean, it's got to be what, four centers, right? Oso, Udaro, Kim Mallock, Nick Richards, Mark Williams,
Mark
right?
Williams, yeah. I mean, they got Royce O'Neal.
Yeah. Hey,
There's
tough
something.
news. Mason Plumlee, you're probably not getting re-signed.
Probably not getting re-signed. Damn, they
Tough
got
one, man.
Cody Martin, and Tyus Jones.
Oh, he's definitely not going back to.
Tyus Jones?
Yeah, like if I'm Tyus Jones, I'm trying to get to the Kings or a team like that.
Mm, yeah. Give me a shot.
Yeah, but so it's the kind of like those two teams in the West are funny. Like that's the thing. Portland gets to look at themselves and be like, hey, well, at least we're not gonna be as bad as them, probably.
And we're younger, and we have more flexibility. Like
Anyway, to
everything.
Montgomery, my goat. He's the top minutes played last year, if I remember correctly.
Really?
Yeah,
Huh. Good for him. I did not know that.
he was really, really good defensively last year, like unbelievably good. Um,
And he
yeah,
and that's another byproduct of the Suns.
yeah, that the I know like in retrospect, I know that KD trade is bad. but Nurkic for Aiton and however, whatever you think of Aiton for Aiton and Kamara is real,
Yeah.
especially because Kamara is good by year two. That is because that's the thing. Kamara didn't end up taking the 4 or 5 years to develop as he thought he might.
Right. Well, I mean, also like with the team you have right now, Aiden's fine for the Suns team if you have fewer centers.
Well, like,
Like
what if you had an Aiton, Ryan Dunn, Tumani Kamara,
and no
well,
so good are.
Aiton, Aiton, KD, Ryan Dunn, Tumani Kamara, and Devin Booker as like our 5-man lineup. You basically get a lot of like 3-and-D guys next to Devin Booker and KD who are shooting. It's a good team, bro.
It's much
Well,
better. And
honestly, they just should have traded KD last year anyways, but
just felt like they were behind the ball on almost every single move. Just like were standing on their heels.
the
And
Beal one though, that was like the killer. It was like ever since the Beal trade, they felt like they were trying to make up for everything. Like that killed all their flexibility for a guy who didn't elevate them to the place they needed to go. And also like just the expectation that Brad Beal was going to elevate you that hard on a team that literally only had Devin Booker and KD was a little bit misguided too.
do we think that they just watched like the House of Highlights clip of the 2021 Suns and were like, we could probably recreate this for the 7 games?
2021 Suns?
Sorry, 2021 Nets with Kyrie, Katie,
Oh, okay.
Harden, and they were like, "Oh, yeah, three scores. This is a good idea."
Royce O'Neal.
Right? Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can do this.
Um,
Like,
yeah, maybe, bro. He was like, dude, this is a really great model of what we need to do. A team
yeah,
that's been totally that didn't win a chip and was totally irrelevant by like a year later.
literally ridiculous.
That's
Um,
crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I think the Suns and the Pelicans are going to be in similar spots where they're both going to be worse than what the everyone in the room expected, but everyone outside of the room is going to be like, yeah, you guys aren't that good.
uh, yeah,
Like,
I mean,
how am I supposed? And these are two teams that are gonna have to compete with the Spurs.
yeah.
Spurs are slamming both of these teams.
Well, let's
About
go
that.
through the better teams are the Spurs for sure, the Rockets, the Mavs, the Thunder, the Blazers, probably the Timberwolves, the Nuggets. That's already seven.
You just left out the Warriors.
The Lakers, the Clippers, the Warriors. I hadn't gotten to the Pacific yet. It's
Oh,
huge,
did you
but
say the
that's
Kings?
no, the Lakers, the Clippers, and the Warriors.
Did you see the
But
Grizzlies or no?
I didn't even say the Grizzlies.
Yeah, I would argue not the Grizzlies, but you if the Grizzlies finished higher than both those teams, like I don't know if we'd be shocked.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, they haven't done
Yeah,
anything yet.
the Kings are. I mean, they're they're fine.
The
They're
Kings
also fine.
pencil them in for 39 wins every year.
Probably, I think they'll be worse than that this year. Honestly, the West is like too good. You can put up a Chicago Bulls type team and go 40-42 in the East, but the West this year, like, what you're gonna go to New Orleans and New Orleans is gonna try to beat you, like because they can't be bad because they just traded their first round pick.
They
So
cannot.
I don't know.
Crazy.
Um, some other trades, or some other stuff that happened during the draft. Obviously Ace Bailey goes to the Jazz, which was kind of, I feel like, their home run pick. I think they've been looking for like a top end talent, and they didn't end up working out. Ace Bailey. He apparently only worked out for the Wizards, so I think that was kind of the rumors he was targeting them. Um, but anyways, he goes to Jazz. Jazz say screw it, draft him. That's like a really good, in my opinion, top end talent to pair with the rest of their team. But that said, I'm a little bit worried about him just like having to play next to. He's gonna have to play in these weird John Collins, Walker Kessler, Laurie Markkinen lineups, and I kind of want Ace Bailey to have like the freedom to explore where he's gonna go as a player, either whether that be as a four or a three. And I think right now he projects to be more of a three, but he's so athletic where I think he long term might actually be better as a four. So there's that. I thought that was interesting. But the Jazz also did trade up and picked Walter Clayton Jr., kind of the sweetheart of the NCAA tournament. So that's also something I want to highlight for them. They allegedly want to start winning sooner rather than later. I think we kind of got a good memo of the way they'd use their picks on at the draft night that they're still in rebuilding mode, frankly. And so be it. I mean, I don't think it would be weirder if they started competing sooner rather than later than if they continued to rebuild. So, yeah, that was another thing on draft night that I thought was interesting. And then also the Blazers picking Henson Yang, which I think we kind of skipped over. Chinese Jokic. I don't know if you heard about this. I mean, he's fun and all. I don't. I don't know how good he's gonna be. As seen his highlights, I can't claim to know too much. Apparently at the combine he's pretty good, but um I don't know if he's got the foot speed to compete on defense, and I don't know if he's actually like he doesn't seem to actually be that good of a passer. I think in the post though he does move like Jokic, which is kind of fun. Like he has a similar like weird hook, the hook shots where he's protecting his own arm with the other arm and stuff like that. Those like running hooks,
Little
he
push
does.
shot thing.
Yeah, and he really has a lot of that, and it seems to work really well, which is fun. But that was probably a shock of the draft. I think not most people had heard about him. If you play NBA 2K, you actually have probably with the draft classes from this year. But anyways, yeah. So that was kind of the highlights for the draft for me. I don't have too much on the draft. We can kind of go back to the trades if you want.
Um, yeah, I mean, I actually really liked I always like guys who feel like they have a good floor. So I was happy for the Jazz for the Walter Clayton pick. I thought that was like a good anytime you win a chip and like you just have kind of been through the fire. So it's like an older rookie that has that experience.
100%.
For the Ace Bailey thing, I think he falls to five. You just kind of have to pick him.
I
But
respect it, honestly.
I think it's a you get a guy who was on a team with another top end talent that didn't even sniff the NCAA tournament, and then you send him from Rutgers to the Utah, bro. Like, I don't know. I'm just little. It's a shame they were the fifth pick. You can't control where you are, but like maybe you get Trey Johnson there instead. I don't know.
I see. That's the thing. I kind of think Trey Johnson might have just been the better pick for Utah. Like honestly, I know they have Clarkson there. I know they have Keontae, and I know they ended up picking Walter Clayton. But if you just add Trey Johnson to that guard mix next to Collier, like long term, that kind of feels like it makes more sense than like. And I don't know. You just kind of need to figure out this Sexton Collins situation. Like they were reclamation projects. You tried. You're not going to end up getting any value for them, and they're going to walk at the end of next year, right? Um, you kind of need to get them out the door sooner rather than later to open up minutes, I think, for Bailey, because I don't love. I think some people think he's an excellent basketball fit. I think Trey Johnson's actually would have been the excellent basketball fit. You get a shooting guard, 6'5" shooting guard, great shooter, not great defensively, but that's fine. You got Walker Kessler manning the middle, and you're going to be a bad team. It doesn't matter. Bailey's kind of more of a swing man, and he might have more growing pains than Trey Johnson. He might be the better player long term, and he definitely has the higher ceiling. But he might have the earlier growing pains, which is actually one of the reasons I was curious about getting him on the Wizards, where I was like, you can have these growing pains on the Wizards.
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like teams make this mistake in the draft is fit shouldn't be primary here at all. Like if you're better, you should just get the best guy. I feel like almost always, unless you have like a good team that got lucky with their landing spot.
Yeah. But I think with this pick, it was like ceiling versus who's like better. And I think both, but I think Trey Johnson probably would have been the better fit for Utah, but then going to Ace. But I think it was kind of more of like a ceiling versus like
Mhm,
I think Utah's like we're not getting any stars anytime soon. We have to take a huge swing in the draft to try to get a top 10 player.
mhm.
And none of our young guys profile to be close to that.
Right. Yeah, no, they do not.
Um, yeah, I'm pretty curious.
Um,
Um, but yeah, he's just gonna have to play the three a lot. I know he's 6'8", but I kind of think he's athletic enough to play the four, and I think that him playing the three constantly might be kind of limiting. Although him and Markkinen in like a wing lineup next to Kessler might end up being fun if that's like long term. Um,
yeah. I mean, ESPN has him listed at 6'10".
I think that might be his. Yeah, well, he was 6'8" without shoes, so at the combine, so probably 6'10"
Mhm.
on the court.
Yeah. It'll be fun, man. NBA always has good players now, which is great, even on bad
Dude,
teams.
I mean, that's the thing. Next year, you're gonna turn on any team, and there's gonna be something to watch for. Even the Hornets. I mean, they can't be this bad again, right? Uh,
Right?
yeah, right. But even like with McNeely and Concanupple, like you're gonna have them to watch next. The white boys, the NCAA white boys taking over Charlotte. That'll be fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Anything else? I think we kind of did all the trades. So I think.
Um,
Cedric Howard trade. We did the Pelicans Wizards trade. I realized, I guess, a lot of those trades involved our team, so that's fine,
yeah, no, that is
including the
fun.
Walter Clayton one.
Um, maybe. I mean, I have my take on the like trade stuff in general, but a
Oh
couple
yeah,
ones where Nas Reed signed recently
extension.
extension
Yeah,
with, which
it's
is
to be expected. He also just had all the leverage in the world,
yeah,
so
yeah. A lot of teams wanted him.
yeah, pretty young too. So,
Yeah, which is cool.
but
Austin
you
Reeves.
gotta
Oh,
you
sorry.
gotta do your spiel. You gotta I remember you gotta do
Oh
your
yeah,
spiel. I think that's the one. Your
yeah.
spiel about transactions being announced before the NBA final finish.
Yeah. I hate this. I think this is terrible. I think this is like an awful look for the league where your people are on first take and stuff talking about Desmond Bain and how he's going to fit with the Magic and Kevin Durant and how he's going to fit with the Rockets before game 7. Like that is absolutely awful if you're the NBA. That's not where you want your focus to be. You want it entirely, and granted, it stinks because the way that the game 7 played out is just like a gut punch to anybody that's not an OKC fan. Like it just sucks. Like you lose the second best player in this finals in the first 8 minutes. That stinks. Leading up to it, I don't really want to hear about offseason moves. I want to save the offseason stuff for the offseason stuff. And I think one of the big issues is when you're trying to get the NBA is in a weird flux zone. We don't have obvious great stars. This isn't the mid 2010s anymore where you have, LeBron and K or the late
Yeah,
2010s, LeBron and KD and Steph.
the gap between the seventh guy and the first guy on every team is as skinny as that.
So skinny. And
Yeah,
so you need to promote the players who are at the limelight. And granted, like the game 7, I think you shared this actually, Max, like had one of the highest viewerships
it was awesome.
in recent whatever the history of the viewership is, which is great. And it was a pretty good game, despite the Halliburton Achilles, which we can talk about too, because I want to hear your thoughts on how that played out. I just don't like it. It feels like it's a weird mix between you have the uber nerdy, I'm paying attention to the NBA all the time fans like you or I, who are really, really intrigued by all these moves. Obviously, KD's not a little move, but plenty of little moves that are happening. The Desmond Bain trade for the average person is like, whatever. I don't know what this means. But people know about KD. It's weird. When you have this product in the NBA, keep the attention in one spot. Keep it on the finals. Don't go distracting people with Kevin Durant to the Rockets. Wait 1 week. Wait until the championship parade has happened. Go ahead and crown the Thunder. Go ahead and crown them for winning their first NBA championship in Oklahoma City. First professional sports team in Oklahoma City to ever win a championship. That's friggin' huge news. Second ever in their franchise, if you want to call this, their franchise. I don't think it's a good idea. I really don't. Like if you want to keep you would never see something like this in the NFL. You would absolutely never see some massive trade happening like this. You just wouldn't. I don't think it's a good look. I think it's trying to I don't know. I don't think this is the intention, but the impact is distracting people with all this different stuff happening at the same time. This should be hey everybody, this is Tyrese Halliburton, by the way. He hits a bunch of clutch shots and he used to be thought of as overrated. He just won an Olympic gold medal and he's going to try to win an NBA championship despite all the odds. I think that's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about how good Oklahoma City was from the start to the end, 68 wins. When was the last time we
Instead
saw
of just waiting for the Rockets to trade for KD the whole time.
Yeah, right, exactly. That's what we're talking about because you have 3 days between these games. You've kind of talked everything you have. But I think when was the last time a team with 68 wins won the championship? I can't think of a team. The Golden State Warriors didn't do it. Didn't win 68 and the championship in the same year. When was
Mhm.
the last time? The Bulls?
Yep.
Um, like that's
Yes.
nuts, dude. So
Did the
uh,
Spurs ever do it? I don't even think so.
I don't think they did it either. I think they had the 60 like in the low 60s, but it's
Yeah, there
hard
we
to
go. No, I frankly, I really agree. When we talked about this originally, I was like, I don't know what the solution is because, it's natural that these teams are probably discussing some of the stuff behind closed doors, but it's the fact that it leaks. Like I don't know if the issue is that these are leaking to shams ahead of time, or if the issue is that these teams are even talking ahead of time. Like almost like they shouldn't be allowed to talk. Should
right.
almost be like the moratorium. Like the issue is in this technology age, it is so hard to police that because the agents end up being the middlemen. um, a lot of times, or like, I don't know. I don't know how to police it. The fact that a team can agree to a trade with another team before the NBA Finals is done is definitely just like an issue. Like that, just like wholeheartedly is an issue. How can that even be? How could that be? You know, and maybe it's just the teams doing verbal agreements and like, yeah, on July 1st, because that's the Rockets thing. Is like, yeah, on July 1st we'll make this trade because Jalen Green can't technically be traded to like July 1st or something.
Right.
But like, the fact that they can even get to Shams that pre it should almost be not allowed for a pre-agreement like that to happen.
Either not allowed or the Rockets get fined or Shams gets fined. Somebody like the NBA just needs to step in. And it doesn't really matter how they do it as long as it is effective. Because I love hearing about Desmond Bain. I love hearing about Kevin Durant. I love hearing about Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis. And granted, those happened after the finals. But like, save it. Just save it.
The
Like
thing
we're
is, yeah, I
you
don't
know
think we could find Shams. I think Shams is like more of a symptom of the problem. Like he's just reporting that these teams are agreeing to deals. Why are you agreeing to deals before the NBA finals are over? Why are you like the draft's like, and that is also, I think, a problem of having the draft so close to the finals that these teams kind of need to talk about some of the
yeah,
stuff. Like it's like, the draft's only 5 days after the finals.
yeah,
What if the Rockets and the Suns weren't allowed to even talk before then? Like, like maybe those negotiations go way different. And I think that's kind of you almost need to move the draft back another week
right.
and a half,
Yeah.
let it settle, and I think naturally that can start helping those situations while also find the teams because like that's also the thing. If the teams agree to it, I do want to know about it. I do
Yeah.
kind of want to know. And so I think Shams, as much as Shams, I think is annoying on like draft day and whatnot. Some of the stuff like that, it's like damn, like I don't know why the teams are agreeing to trades before the finals over. Like
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think you're totally fair. If I'm Shams or if I'm an NBA team and I have a chance 2 days before another team to make a deal on something that's going to get me a better haul, I'm going to do that, of course. To your point, like but that is a symptom of the attention, ecosystem that we're dealing with. To your point, like of course I'm going to pay attention to the Kevin Durant and be like, oh my gosh, and share this with everybody and be like, yo, check this out. Like,
And no doubt, to a certain extent, that kind of contributes to the hype around the game in terms of like getting eyes on Game 7. Because you also want, oh, could the Rockets beat one of these teams?
right,
Oh,
yeah,
but let's build that hype with some basketball loving rather than some free agency loving.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think the Pacers and the Thunder are two great examples of teams that did a great job both in the draft and both with trading to get guys in. They didn't go get superstars. They either traded for guys that got good or they drafted guys that got good. Um, and it was really hometown basketball, homegrown basketball, and home traded basketball. And this was fantastic as a fan. Um, so just a little rant on just push it back a couple of weeks, guys. Like, and I don't care what the solution is. Whatever the solution for the NBA to figure it out is, you guys can figure it out. Won't police on how to do it. Just do it.
Figure it out. Yeah.
Just figure it out. Like you guys are good at this. You guys got a lot of money.
We need to do a conversation about scheduling too. This is probably a longer conversation, but I think the NBA scheduling could probably use a revamp. Let's start Thanksgiving. No,
Mm,
never, no team should ever be able to play more than 4 games in a week.
mm.
Um, no, if you have to travel from a city to a city, like you can't play back to back on those days, like shit like that. Because that's another thing. Like we didn't talk about the Halliburton injury, but I think that Halliburton got hurt in game 7. I don't think the schedule or anything contributed to it, frankly, actually. But the amount of injuries and ACL injuries and injuries we saw throughout the season, let's just push the season back a little bit. Let's go into let's have the finals in July. Who cares what if the finals is like 4th of July, man? That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
cool.
Um,
That's cool. I
I
mean,
don't
we
know.
need some patriotism back in the NBA, anyways.
That's crazy. That's
uh,
that's
no, I jest, of course, but um, no, I'm with you, dude. And
Democratic Basketballs of America, Basketballers of America.
yeah, right, the DBA. Yeah, and
That's
maybe teams are hesitant to chop it down to 72 games, like whatever. To your point, like spread out the amount of time. Like I don't know. I love watching basketball in July. That'd be great.
That'd be great. Yeah, of course. It's like because it's still the dog days of baseball. That's the thing. Baseball, I honestly, baseball is not relevant enough to steal from
No,
basketball eyeballs.
no, right. And I think the markets don't really overlap, anyways.
If anything, it might be good for baseball. If you have like the NBA finals going happening around All-Star break time for baseball or something, like that might actually help baseball a little bit. Get some
Right.
more people in front of the TVs in the middle of the summer.
Exactly.
Um, I don't know, but I don't know. Yeah, we could revamp the schedule. We could figure it out.
Um, what'd you think of Game 7?
Oh, oh, so sorry. I haven't been sleeping
Brutal.
super
That's too
well.
bad.
I lost my I lost my wallet this week, so it's gonna be kind of rough. Dude who stole my wallet. If you're watching this podcast, bro, he's on
Yo,
site now.
give Max back his wallet. He cannot stop yawning. And I
Can I,
don't know the connection there, but give this man back his wallet.
dude, I had cash in there, so I hope it's going to something good. I hope it's going to something good.
Hopefully,
I feel bad.
hopefully, maybe he could be our
Um,
Patreon, and he can mail us some money. We'll shout him
he's
out.
good. That's funny. Should give him a shout out his Instagram. Um, that's insane. I can't believe
Fun,
I shared that on this podcast.
fun fact for our episode 85 is that Max lost $85 from his wallet from
That's
our
that's literally how much I lost from Marvel. That's hilarious. Yeah. Fuck, what was I gonna say? What would you ask me before
sorry.
I yawn? Game seven.
Yeah,
Game seven. Thought it was great. Thought the Pacers were gonna win. I thought the Pacers were gonna win the way game started. Halliburton sniping. I know he only played like what 6 7 minutes, whatever. Or when did he get late? Mid to
yeah,
late first quarter, right?
yeah, late first quarter, like 4 minutes
Yeah.
left.
Um. Yeah, I honestly thought the Pacers were going to win. The pacing of
Yeah,
the game was I thought was going the Pacers' way. Um, you were getting performances from side characters like the Matherins and the McConnells of the world who were there to support the guys like Halliburton and
yeah,
Siakam.
yeah,
But then Halliburton gets hurt, and so those side characters had to be main characters, and then you end up with a lot of turnovers, even though they were leading at halftime. You know,
yeah.
you were it's kind of an ominous feeling that Thunder were just going to come back and um, I don't even think the Thunder were that good, to be honest. Actually, in Game Seven, I that like in a lot of these games that Thunders win, like Thunder win, it's easy to like poo-poo their performances, but they're usually very, very incredible and like you can always say, oh, they didn't shoot the ball well enough or whatever, and then they always pull it out by 20 because their
Yeah,
defense is
exactly.
great or they win every loose ball or whatever, like. But truly in Game Seven, I they were clearly very beatable and that was tough to watch. It was tough to watch. It really sucked to watch the rest of the game. I was so glued to the TV because the Pacers kept it so close with McConnell and Mathurin. Um, but it sucks the way it turns out. It sucks that the Pacers gonna have to take next year as a wash too,
Yep.
because that's also the thing. That's that as much as Game Seven sucked, the Pacers unfortunately like even if Halliburton came back for the playoffs next year, like it's just difficult to expect that you can drop in a player like that into a playoff team and for them to go deep. So that was kind of disappointing. It felt the same way as that game seven was like a worse version of the Celtics Knicks game four when Tatum was going crazy and tore his Achilles, where it felt like we were robbed of something. Felt the same way too. And that's not poo-pooing the Thunder's win at all. They deserved to win, and frankly, they probably deserved to close out the series earlier than this. But that's why we play the games, and it's just unfortunate the way it turned out.
It is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it was cool to watch. It was cool to watch TJ McConnell go off in the third quarter. It was cool to watch Ben Mathurin just go to the line 14 times or
Over and
whatever.
over and over. Yeah.
Over.
And rebounding really well, if I remember correctly, too, in that game.
Yeah,
So.
they were trying out there. So that was cool, but it stunk just knowing, dang, we don't get to see Halliburton. I don't know if this is a shot in the dark, but there's an alternate universe where the Pacers are back-to-back NBA champions if Halliburton doesn't get hurt in back-to-back years in the postseason. Like the Celtics 4-0'd the Pacers last year, but they were close
The
games.
games were all close. Yeah,
Last
very
two,
close.
he was hurt, and so it's kind of like there is an alternate world where the Celtics and the Thunder don't have championships, and
Maybe Luca has those championships then.
maybe Luka does have the championship instead. Um, but it'll be exciting, man. I think it just goes to show we're so worried about a new team just being dominant, but it's so tough. It's so tough to win right now with this parity.
Well, And honestly, the parity it just means you should go for it because I mean I think the Thunder. That's the thing. I think if you watch these playoffs, as good as the Thunder were, and they deserve to win the chips, they're clearly beatable. And as a storyline, it's like the perfect favorite because they're amazing. They're
Yeah,
great to watch. They're unbelievable, but they are beatable. You
no
know,
shot.
they are beatable. They're not. You know, when Katie joined the Warriors,
Oh, yeah.
as much as the Rockets like proved that they were beatable,
Yeah.
you literally had to just you couldn't really dictate the game. You know,
Yeah.
the game you know, you're doing a lot of you're surviving the Warriors rather, you know. You can beat this Thunder team. And the Pacers I think showed a little bit of that. Chet, who I had slander for throughout the playoffs, was great in game 7. But I think that's like a spot where you go, hey, maybe a two-man, like this is a bad example because I don't think this would happen, but maybe my Mobley Allen lineup could really like just out physical the Thunder in the finals. You know, you could talk yourself into that, which always make the Thunder a perfect favorite because they're actually unbelievable, and I think they should be favorites for next year too.
And I believe they are plus 230 to win.
Um,
Those are huge. Those are
but again, they are beatable if you're a team in the West. You're telling yourself that, and if you're a team in the East, I mean, who knows if the Pacers are a playoff team? So
yeah, it's crazy.
it's crazy how the NBA can change like that. I do feel really bad for the Pacers, and I think you texted me this, but I'll remember this team for a really long time. One of my favorite non-championship winning teams I've seen in a really long time. I personally always will have like a soft spot in my heart for those Rockets teams that couldn't beat the Warriors because I went and saw the game 6, where they should have won, and Chris Paul is just hurt, and it's and I'm watching the game. I'm like, damn, like you guys lose by like in all these small moments that would have changed the game completely. It's like if you have Chris Paul instead of whoever, like you win this game. And so I always have like something in my heart for them, that Rockets team, but this Pacers team feels the same way. It's like this game 7. If you just had Halliburton in these certain moments instead of McConnell, who did play really well, it's like, you know, maybe you turn the ball over less than 25 times, or they turn the ball over, and maybe that's the difference. So,
Yeah, maybe Miles Turner and Siakam feel more confident, and they also like the spotlight isn't right on them. To your point, they get to be side characters again.
yeah.
Oh,
And they were great, and they were shaping up to be the perfect side character for a Game 7 win for the Pacers. So that's why I feel like we're a little robbed. But again, I don't want to take. We spent so much on the time on the Pacers. Like, I think the Thunder deserve all the flowers in the world. Amazing season, SGA deserving Finals MVP, one of the best seasons, accolades wise and performance wise we've seen in an extremely long time. This is probably one of the best shooting guard seasons the last 35 years. And the people that you could put them up in an argument with in those shooting guard seasons are like Wade, Kobe, MJ, right? So it's like truly incredible.
uh, before we go, SGA all time if he retires tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm over Russ or no?
Yeah,
Then
probably
yeah, it's got to be top 40, top 50. I still can't put him over like it's a little too soon. I know it's one chip. It's a little too soon for me to
like
slot
Nash.
him in. I'd probably take Nash and Kidd above him still, but he just needs it literally if he could just not win a chip for the rest of his career and just continue at this rate and it will surpass those guys very easily.
Yeah, totally.
You know, it's kind of like it's Giannis is a bad example because Giannis had like 8 years in the league, eight,
Right,
9 years in the league, right? Because he came in so young. Like SGA is in what year 6,
right.
which is unbelievable, by the way. I mean, 3 years, no accolades, and then what? All NBA first team, first team, first team, 3 years running.
It's incredible.
Because that's the thing. If he's All NBA first team 7 straight times, he doesn't need to win another chip to pass all those guys.
Yeah.
So I'm yeah, it's no flame to you, but it's funny enough. This is the route that we were a little bit expecting or almost charting for Tatum, and SJ just did it. You know,
Yeah, I get it.
and I don't mean to compare. I don't mean to compare, but it was like I thought Tatum was his route was snatching the mantle on a regular season award, then leading the Celtics to a chip, etc. And even though they won a chip, kind of those other mantle things didn't happen, and SGA kind of just completed the
The
just
gauntlet.
an absolute gauntlet, all time gauntlet of accolades. Like this season should be and will be rightfully remembered for a long time as a historic season from SGA.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And they'll only be better.
Yeah. And with that, I get that's all I got. We'll be back, I guess, for free agency. There's gonna be some fun stuff there. I think there's gonna be tons of moves just because the cap space scene and Jonathan Kuminga, you better love Miami. No,
Better.
that's a stretch. That's a stretch. Um,
I'm
but yeah.
excited. Yeah, we'll do some. We'll start getting some previews going on with some fans. Um, Probably get some historical stuff. Bring back some decades things. But yeah, looking forward to the free agency now that the season is over. Of course.
Now that the season is over. And I believe free agency technically starts like July 1st or July 4th. So
Yep.
it's right around the corner, just like the draft is around the corner. And we're gonna have a bunch of stuff. We're gonna talk fantasy, we're gonna talk everything, and we're always gonna be here. So I'm hyped. This is my favorite part of the season, as I always say in the off season. So I'm excited.
Let's go. Shout out, y'all. Thank you for, yeah, this is, I guess, a wrap on the 2024-2025 NBA season. Thank you guys for our third straight postseason of our Spin Hoops podcast. We'll see y'all soon. As always, we're chilling, spitting hoops. So holla at y'all.